Hi, my name is Kaylee Brown, and I am a cinematographer and filmmaker with a passion for telling stories about how humans relate to their environment and to nature. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about green filmmaking or sustainable filmmaking. This is something that I've been researching for a number of years, and in the past half year or so, I've been researching specifically how Hollywood and large film productions have been incorporating sustainable practices and a little bit about the history of it as well. So, what is sustainability? I want to start us off nice and broad for this. Um, a lot of the time, I've found myself talking to people about sustainability and realizing that we're not talking about the same thing. That I am talking about sustainability in terms of the actions we're taking, and they are talking about sustainability as a means of how we look at a company's success and how they've kept themselves alive. Um, Increasingly, though, it is a term that is being used for environmental concerns. It is a catch-all for concerns over the state of our planet. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, to pursue sustainability is to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony to support present and future generations. This is pretty vague, isn't it? There are so many routes we can go with sustainability, so many interpretations depending on an individual's background and or personal experience. That is, however, also the beauty of it. While it's extremely important to reference an overarching definition like this to help our community understand each other, a localized or specified definition with a certain set of actions can be invaluable and enhance a community's willingness to participate in sustainable action. So something like a toolkit made for filmmakers about sustainability is specified enough and provides filmmakers with a language and an outline with which to understand each other when aiming for sustainable action and sustainable films. So the Green Production Guide, which was formed with 3 different groups in Hollywood, they have created a division of the Green Production Guide called the Green Film School Alliance, and this happened in 2020. They also released something called the Peachy, which is essentially a toolkit, and is similar to a toolkit that is being used on large films and large productions. The Peachy is an Excel spreadsheet that is divided into different departments, different sections for filmmaking. And the idea is that you work your way through it before you start your film, before you start your project, and you decide which sections you are going to do, which ones you aren't going to do, and what you need to tell your department heads and the people that you're working with, what you need to tell them. To understand that there are additional expectations for them. So you perform that, and then you go through production, and then afterwards you fill out the form again and go through and fill out what you did actually do, what you did do during production. So it's a pretty simple form. I think one issue with it is that it can be inaccessible, especially if you're not someone who is interested in this. But if you are, it is a good tool, and it is something that takes there's a bit of a learning curve to using it, but once you have used it, it is very easy to understand. So then after you've filled that all out and completed everything, you will see there will be a number based on what you have done, and if that number is above a certain minimum, which is outlined on the spreadsheet, you can email and apply for a green seal for production, which is essentially just incentive to complete this form as you receive recognition for doing so. So I'm going to be doing a short walkthrough of the Peachy Guide to get you guys started on it. And then I'll talk briefly about specifying this even more to places like Tucson, Arizona, as I think it is really important to be sharing the work that you've already done and to be sharing the resources that you've discovered along the way. So here is the Green Production Guide website. And this is where you can find the general Peach guide for big films, but we are looking for the Green Film School Alliance specifically. So if you navigate to these 3 bars over here to the menu and then go down to Industry Resources, you'll see the Green Film School Alliance. If you click on that, it'll take you to the page. And if you scroll down, you will see, of course, some information about the Green Film School Alliance and the Peachy. And then on the right, you will see a link to download the Peachy, which is the toolkit. So if you click Download Peachy, it will begin to download the Peachy toolkit for you. And you can open that in Excel. I think you can also drag it into Google and open it via Google Sheets. It does change the formatting a bit, but not too significantly. And it is the same software, more or less. Okay, so if you navigate and open the Peachy guide, you'll see this first page, Peachy Best Practices for a Sustainable Student Production, and some explanation on how to use it. I would recommend walking through that, but I will also be walking you through how to do this as well. So this is just the opening page. What you really want to get to is the Peachy checklist and EMA application, which is the second tab. Okay, so the idea is that you fill out all this general information up here, put your school logo, all the different heads of the departments, and then you can see this is the overall Peachy score. So at prep means at pre-production. These are the committed practices, and you will see there will be a way to fill this out, and it'll automatically fill itself, this section. And then the potential points you can gain. And then at wrap, so after you've completed production and you're done with the project, or during post-production when you're editing the project and are finishing it up, you go back through and see what you actually completed and what you have actually earned. And then over here it shows you you need a minimum of 50 points to qualify for the EMA Green Seal, and there's a little bit of an explanation about what that means. So first off, we start with development and pre-production, which is just the general overall thing. And then we have production and supplies, art construction, props and set decoration, camera grip and electric, catering and craft services, costume, wardrobe, hair and makeup, special effects, transportation, general practices for all departments, and that is the end of the document. Okay, so let's go through one of these sections, and I will start with, let's see, I want to do a more specific one. Okay, so it has, as you can see, there are a set of questions and ways to fill them out on the side. So let's just go through this first one. Did you use existing sets or materials from another production or other resource? And then these are the potential points you can get. Then you can choose. If you say yes, then it'll fill in 2 points as potential. So these blue columns right here, this is what you do during pre-production. So essentially, this is you going through and deciding what you want to do, what you want to adhere to while making this film. So there are options, you can see yes, no, not applicable, and then it'll fill out all the potential points. So this is essentially just a way to make sure that you are on the same track with your department heads and with the other people you're working with. It's also a way to see if what you plan on doing is going to fulfill the minimum points needed to get the seal. So we can keep going. Did you design to allow for reuse after strike, keep end of life in mind, and create a plan with production for strike, etc.? So I can say no here, and it won't fill in anything. And let's see, if we put in NA, it won't fill in anything. And of course, you can go back through this you don't have to just complete this once and be done with it. You can go back through and adjust as needed. Or maybe even after you've completed it, you'll discover that you've done more than you thought and be able to fill out more sections. So after you've gone through each section like this and determined what you are going to do, you look at your potential points, and then you work to do that. I would recommend writing down what you plan on doing in a different document, as this document is a little hard to scroll up and down on, and it's easy to forget what exactly you said you were going to follow through with. So I'd recommend writing that down and sharing that with the people you're working with, and telling them, that this is what you plan on doing and accomplishing during this film process, this content process. Okay, so then afterwards, you can just leave this alone for a few months or a few weeks or however long it takes to make the thing you're, trying to make. And afterwards, you will go back through this, and the same process. You will go through each question, and in this green column over here, you will select, did I accomplish it? Did I achieve that? Yes or no, or not applicable anymore. You can do this either after or during. They do ask you, or they do leave a section off to the side for you to provide additional explanation. And for certain sections, they do like to see that, because if there are certain things you're not adhering to, some of them are pretty simple. So if there's like a legitimate reason why you can't adhere to that, they do want to know. And they want to hear about the challenges, during this process, so we can all, learn from each other and better ourselves. And there's also a section at the very end where you can just write additional comments and suggestions. Okay, so you have filled out the toolkit, and you go up here and you look at how many you completed, and if what you've completed gets you to above 50 points, you can submit for a green seal. So this is a great resource, and I highly encourage that you use it, as it is just, it's very well laid out, and it can really help you discover what is important and what is not important. And maybe you'll go forward using these techniques even if you're not necessarily using this toolkit in the future. But I want to leave you with some tips and some tricks about, making this more of a localized process, and some general tips that I learned while going through this process before you embark on it yourself. I really think that this process benefits from having a local perspective and gaining local knowledge, as sustainability is rooted in the environment, and it's very important for us to recognize that we are living within a complex, ever-evolving ecosystem. So I would really recommend to call local stores and restaurants. Really think about what products, what materials you need for your film and for your project, and where you might be able to get those. Some places that I found to be very useful, just generally speaking, are Seto Zero Waste Store, which is here in Tucson. It is a great resource for large cardboard boxes, used technology, and other tools, as they have donation sites where people can drop off things like that. And that's usually free. They're very helpful over the phone for recommending other places depending on what you're looking for, as they have connections with the local environmental activism realm here in Tucson. Another good resource specifically for films and filmmaking is Monsoon Production Services, which is a rental facility with cameras and other filmmaking, cameras, lighting, tripods, tents, etc. It is a good resource for getting items that you might not want to buy or can't buy. You can also rent things like coffee makers, tents, tables, so not exclusively film equipment. For water, and this is one of the biggest things that I would recommend to do and would recommend as a useful way to get rid of plastic waste, water coolers or dispensers. And if you don't have one or don't want to buy one, I found the Water Street Station was very helpful for this process. They are a local water facility here in Tucson. They sometimes allow rentals of their large water dispensers for a set price and a set deposit. It's good if you don't want to invest in a water cooler and don't want to lug that around. And it also reduces plastic waste, which I think is a very, very important thing to figure out early on, especially if you're going to be somewhere where you know you don't have access to running water or just access to drinking water. Local restaurants are the best bet for more sustainable or less packaging. You can make special instructions on the order, such as no plastic bags, no plastic utensils, etc. Battery recycling. Home Depot on Broadway has a battery recycling drop off, and so do the City of Tucson services. Composting. So the PG Guide recommends that you set up a recycling, trash, and composting, area during production. But where do you put your compost if you don't have a composting bin? Fortunately, Inch by Inch AZ is a natural fertilizer program that accepts compost for free now. If you look up Inch by Inch AZ, you'll find where they are and where you can go to drop it off and when you can do that. They're also a very cool company. The owners are very nice, and they work with earthworms and fertilizer. Okay, now I just want to go over some brief tips on what I experienced while making films, and really, how to make sustainability as effective as possible on set. Broadly speaking, the goal is to be more aware of what materials and resources you're putting into your project. What could you be doing better? What doesn't need to be used? What could be swapped out? And what can you teach people? I would recommend, if you're not it yourself, get a sustainability production assistant. Get someone who is interested in this and wants to follow through on these different items. Encourage or require cast to bring their own water bottle. I think it's just, it's a simple method. People usually already bring their own water bottles. And perhaps still have backup bottles or a few plastic water bottles on set for those who forget. As you know, our goal with sustainability is not to prevent people from having access to resources. It is to swap out resources and work to create better ones that are producing less waste. Make announcements during pre-production, production, and post-production on what the goals are. I think, really sharing with people and making sure that they know what they're doing and what you're doing. That's really important. Send out emails to crew. Bring it up in meetings, bring it up in safety meetings. Just talk to people about it if they're interested, even if they're not. An easy suggestion to make, tell someone to turn off a light if they're not using it. Or power down all the lights during breaks. It's simple and, reminds people to do something. Encourage carpooling, start a group chat or send out a Google form, but still, make sure that people do have the access to get to the place that you're asking them to go to. Rely on sunlight, LEDs, reflectors, etc. for lighting. LEDs are very accessible nowadays. They weren't always the standard, but they very much so are now. Sunlight is your friend, you can manipulate the sunlight. Just go outside, Separate on-set waste. You can make separate bags or bins and label them. And it usually is good to have someone managing those bins. Just making sure that everything is making it where it should go. So those are the general tips I have for being on set. I really think it's great. These are really simple things sometimes, but if you do these consistently, if you, if everyone is doing them, that's awesome. We're creating an environment and a culture where constant use and waste is not part of our everyday life. A lot of these actions, you can take home with you and incorporate into your daily life. Most of what I've been researching and most of what I've talked to you about today is really just about, holding ourselves accountable, creating better situations and scenarios for ourselves, and creating a better world overall. As, if we go back to that definition about sustainability, this is about us. It's about the future generations. It is about the well-being of both us and the planet. Thank you for your time today, and I hope this was useful, and I hope to see so many EMA green seals on films from now on. Thank you.